if you could start by telling us, what path did you follow to achieve this current position?
A long and winding path. I actually am not, my career path is not the standard path for lawyers. I lived in a rural community in the Kootenays for 20 years of my adult life, and had a farm, and I was a teacher in an independent school, had a fantastic backcountry skiing, mountain climbing life, and injured my back. And when I injured my back, I couldn't do all of those things that I did so well, and I had to reinvent myself and thought, what other assets do I have? And I've got a good brain. So applied to law school and surprised myself by getting in. So came to UVic as a mature student, and thought I would go back and be the second lawyer in the small town where I lived, but didn't. Stayed here and worked in private practice here for a number of years, and then moved to government about 6 years ago. And then actually took one more step in my academic path by doing a professional master's degree in international human rights law from the University of Oxford.
What does your current position entail?
Currently, I am the solicitor for the Ministry of Education, and one of the really fantastic things about being a lawyer for government is that there is so much scope and opportunity to practice different kinds of law. So when I introduced myself and said what my title is, I said I'm a barrister and solicitor. The barrister is kind of the classic, what most people think of as a lawyer. They're the courtroom lawyers that go and argue cases in court or before administrative tribunals. Solicitors do the legal opinions and contracts and that sort of thing. So I've done all of those things, and there are opportunities to do all of those things in government. Currently, as solicitor for Ministry of Education, I do practice a very wide range of law. So I get asked questions that are about constitutional issues, about statutory interpretation, about administrative law, Charter of Rights, kinds of things, really interesting, diverse areas of law.
So if a student wants a position similar to yours, what courses and work experience do they need to acquire as a student and as perhaps when they graduate?
Right. What I would be suggesting for people who are interested in law, and particularly in government law, is to consider that it's very, very competitive to get into law school. And so if your interest in law is sort of more wide-ranging, it's not just being a lawyer, to consider more broadly, and certainly not to go towards achieving being a lawyer if you can, but a lot of people who are qualified and who would make really good lawyers don't get into law school because it is so competitive. And so to limit yourself to that could be limiting yourself from a career that could be still very satisfying. So I would say be aware that there's a full range. There are legal secretaries, paralegals, legal researchers, lawyers. There's a whole division within our ministry called the Court Services Branch that administers the court system in the province. An extremely interesting field to be in, very, very important, and yet most people, when they think about law, would never consider that that's a possibility. So to really think more broadly. And then in terms of, if you said, no, that's great advice, but I really want to be a lawyer, I think it would depend then on what kind of lawyer you wanted to be. And if you knew that you wanted to be a criminal lawyer, I'd say, do criminology courses and all of that sort of thing. If you just more generally want to be a lawyer, there's no direct path. Political science will certainly help, and certainly for being a government lawyer, political science will help. But I'd say follow your interests. Take the courses that you love, do what's interesting to you, get really good marks because you won't get into law school without them, and follow your passion basically, because your passion in what you do in your undergrad will then inform what you do in law school and the kind of law that you practice. And there are so many options for different kinds of lawyers that you don't want to just really limit yourself at the undergraduate stage.
So what do you think are some of the misconceptions of working with the government?
I think sometimes people think that if you disagree with, say, I've always voted NDP or I've always voted Green and we have a Liberal government, so I couldn't work within government because I don't agree with the political party. I think that's a misconception about how the public service works. As a public servant, my views should be irrelevant. That's not my role. I'm not an elected official, and you really do have to just set that aside. It doesn't matter what your own political beliefs are. working as a public servant is about democracy, and it's about saying, okay, this is the party that's in power, their vision for the province is what matters, and our job as public servants is to do the best we can to support them in that. As public service lawyers, our job is to make sure that the governing party works, upholds the rule of law, because that's so important for who we are as a society, and that we help them achieve their objectives while avoiding legal risk.
Great. Last question. What are the benefits of working with government?
As I said in the beginning, one of the really big benefits of working in government is the diversity of areas that you can work in. There are so many different kinds of jobs, so many different areas to work in. It's really, there's a lot of room to move around, a lot of room to follow what your passion is, a lot of room to, if you have a particular style of person that you like to work with, there's enough room to move around and find the group that's going to be the right team for you to be working on. It's a very satisfying career path, because I think being a public servant matters. I think the things that we do, and most of my colleagues I think would agree with this, the work that we are doing is about making the province a better place for everyone, and that's meaningful, and it's very satisfying.